Russia has reinstituted the blockade around Ukraine to block grain or any other shipments coming in and out of the Ukrainian ports through the Black Sea. Not only that, they have said that any ship going toward a Ukrainian port would be considered a valid military target. Furthermore, they've also attacked Odessa twice, 2 nights in a row. The Ukrainians, in one report, says, well, really nothing's happened. We got a little debris on the roads and buildings, and one old guy was taken out. But then again, they come out with another report from the Ukrainians claiming that 60,000 tons of grain was destroyed in an attack by Russia. And in fact, they said that grain was going to China. Now, we hear most of the grain coming out of Ukraine was going to Europe, but China is buying up so much stuff right now because there's shortages. Well, that don't surprise me. That may possibly actually be true. So there's lots of propaganda and counter propaganda. But guys, this has turned into a real slugfest. So not only we have all this stuff going on in the Black Sea, but we've also got a situation where Ukraine seems to be making progress around Bakhmut, and Russians are trying to reinforce this by bringing in reservists. And also on top of that, Russia is supposedly amassing something like 100,000 troops to take Kharkiv, that area and around there. So they're looking to make a major push from Russia. Ukraine is slowly gaining ground around Bakhmut. Ukraine's having a very hard time progressing against all the landmines that Russians have put out. Their progress is exceedingly slow in that regard because overcoming those landmines is a real problem. Apparently, they've taken to foot instead of using so many of their armored vehicles to try to penetrate into there to make that happen. We don't know how all this is going to play out. Ukraine is dismissing the 100,000. They're not trained. They don't have the motivation. But, guys, we'll have to see what's going to happen here. There's a lot of, the Russian troops are a little bit lacking in training. They're probably not as motivated as somebody defending their homeland. But so there is propaganda, counter propaganda, but it's a real slugfest. There's so much going on right now that it's picking up, and we'll probably pick up even more into August because that's when some of the major activities are supposed to take place. At some point, Ukraine's supposed to get F-16s. So, guys, this is getting to be serious. It's going to be an ugly war. It's already ugly, and it's about to get worse from the looks of it. There's also Ukraine counterattacked Crimea. They hit a base in Crimea in retaliation for the hits on Odessa. Now, the hits on Odessa were a counterattack from Russia. Russia attacked those bases because of the hit on the Kerch Strait Bridge, which was the main bridges in and out of Crimea, which Putin says, well, it's no military sniffs. Well, it was enough that made him mad, and he said he'd take revenge, and he did, and counter revenge is taking place. And I guess a counter revenge. That's the way war goes. Of course, all bets are off in war. Anything, all targets are targets. So these are the kind of things you would expect, irregardless, in a war. So this is a special military operation. Excuse me. This is a very intense special military operation, if you will. And like I said, the intensity is about to crank up. Not only that, Russia and China are about to go into some joint naval drills. So, and this is putting pressure on Japan and Taiwan and some other countries in those areas. So for some reason, the Russians really like running around Japan. And the Japanese are a little antsy about that. They have claims and counterclaims on islands between Japan and Russia, and they fought a few wars against each other in the past. Wars, plural. That's how we went up down Alaska, so Russia could finance fighting Japan once upon a long time ago in the 1860s. Swords Folly is what they call it, but it turned out to be a pretty darn good purchase. Having lived there myself 2 years, I love the place. It's beautiful. But all right, let's get into it. I'm going to share some articles here, guys. I'm going to show you this stuff that's cooking. Here we are. This is on the Ruski side. Russian military issues maritime warnings for Black Sea. Let's just cut through these real fast. Oops. Russia attacks Black Sea port. This is the Odessa port, twice over, actually, after the U.S. announces major agricultural aid package. Oh, yeah. On top of that, Biden has pledged another $1.9 billion in weapons going to Ukraine. What do you think about that? Here we are. This article, after there was another article, I'm not even going to show you that, saying, well, there was no damage done, really, nothing happened. Well, here's 60,000 tons of agricultural products destroyed by Russian missiles. Okay, that sounds to me like a little bit more than window dressing. You tell me. You know what? Does this begin to look like a food war? And that's what I put out in one of my previous videos. I talked to this coming up situation. I called it food wars because it's also been suggested by a few different articles I've already seen that Turkey might weigh in on this because Turkey's actually got a more intense navy in the Black Sea than Russia does. So, and Turkey is not an insubstantial country, and they've actually said, hey, we should just bring Ukraine right into NATO, which is automatically like to vote Article 5. So maybe Turkey wants to go at it. And that's a big switch because Erdogan and Putin were like buddy-buddy. So what happened was that Putin got to be a weak guy and a strong like Recep Erdogan can only like strong guys. I don't know. Is Putin weak? Does it just look that way? You know, I'm not judging, guys. You tell me what's motivated Erdogan to switch. Did he get a sweetheart deal from NATO? I don't know. Biden making a special deal. So, guys, food wars. Good time to think about stockpiling long-term food. Go to prepwithgreg.com. I do say go get your beans and rice at the box stores first. But, guys, we got some pretty good deals here. $30 off a 1 week emergency supply. So, guys, if you can only buy 1 week's worth, this is a start. This is food that's easy to bury, easy to bug out with. You know, it comes in these pouches that I've shown you many times. What's inside those big boxes, which is sealed hermetically, is these little sealed pouches. That's why, so you can bury the stuff. It's lightweight. You can bug out with this. Goes in a backpack real nicely. So these are things that you ought to consider for your long-term food storage, among other things, like eating free from the weeds and trees. I got videos on that too. So, all right, guys, best prepwithgreg.com. Here we are. Russian military base explodes as Ukraine retaliates over grain strikes. The strike counter-striking about 2,000 people in this area around Crimea evacuated after this hit. All right, this next page on up. There we go. Russia claims to occupy Crimea. They say the Russians claim they got hit with 30 drones. 30 drones hit. And here we are. This is where the Russians are said to be amassing 100,000 troops and something like 900 tanks. I know somebody says, well, they ain't got 900 tanks. Well, apparently they just got a new shipment of tanks that just went into Russia. I don't know how many was in that shipment, but I did see an article on a new shipment, brand new tanks going in there. But it looks like right now, Ukraine might actually have more operable tanks than Russia. Yeah, I know I've heard the figure 24,000 Russian tanks. Well, I'd seen a really good survey of this right before the war started, before the special operations started, actually. And this survey is people that actually went in and looked at all the sites in Russia and went on the all the satellite photographs. They said that from the best they could tell, Russia only at that point in time had about 3,000 actually truly operable tanks. Because most of them were sitting in boneyards of various degrees of operability. So, you know, take that or leave it, whatever you think. I don't care. I'm just putting it out what I've heard from various sources, be it right or wrong. That's just a data point to consider. And it certainly looks like they probably weren't far off given what Russia actually marshaled. They've lost a little over 2,000 tanks. It can be verified from various satellite photographs of boom, 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 that they've been making some along the lines. What they got around there? A little over 1,000, 1,500. Are they back to 2,000? I don't know. Yeah, I see data all over the map. All right, so Russians retreat from positions near Orkovo and Vasilivka, however you say that. That's the areas around Bakhmut. They say the Russians are actually retreating some in this area, but probably not a whole lot. You know, Ukraine's been gaining grounds by just a very few square miles, like day or two ago. So they gained all of 7 square miles. And well, wow, okay, got a long way to go. But then, hey, they're fighting those minefields. I'm not taking sides here, guys. I'm just telling you the punch counter punch. All right. This article claims Putin is smiling. What's holding back Ukraine's counteroffensive? Well, we know it's those minefields. Yikes. All right, here it is. Russia forces to get a new batch of upgraded tanks. There they are. They got the T-72B3M and the T-90M main battle tank. That's the new one, the T-90. But Ukrainians have been taking out some of those. Now, I don't see in this article where it says how many, but they are getting some. Well, I can at least count, 6 there, right? 2, 4, 6. I assume it's more than 6. That's what's in the picture. All righty, guys. So maybe 6, maybe 600. I don't know. It's been claimed that we're putting 900 out there in the Kharkiv area, but that comes from Ukrainian sources. I know somebody is a Ukraine bro who He says, nah, they don't have all that up there. That's not happening. But that's what Ukrainian sources are claiming. So I don't know. It's the fog of war, guys. But guess what? Prigozhin's popped back up, and he's popped back up. He's been seen. That's an older photograph there. But he's in Ukraine, not Ukraine. He's in Belarus, and he's up there at the Wagner camp. Now, a lot of sources are claiming the Wagner camp doesn't really have that many troops in it. Supposedly, they are training the Belarusian military. The member of part, the Colonel General from Russia, that claimed that they were ready to move in and take the Zalewski Gap. I don't think they got enough Wagner there to do that, to be honest. And the Belarus military is not that substantial now. Maybe they build it up, make a go for that, especially if this heats up with NATO. But I would expect if that's the first move, and it is a rural area, it's considered a weak underbelly in NATO. But I would imagine airstrikes would take out anything they would manage to put in there. So I think that would be a tough proposition. But what he's telling them is their biggest job in the world is still coming up. But apparently, this has got something to do with Africa. He's been alluding to return to Africa, more operations in Africa. And this may be why Putin is tolerated him. Maybe Putin needs some other source of revenue and wants to cut the mine activity. I've said before, Wagner is making money off the mines, and they got in Africa, and probably Russia's getting some of that too. So there may be a reason that Putin let this guy go after he had accused him of committing treason. They were buddy before that. And then again, Putin also needs somebody who can counter his military, because his military and his intelligence branches are only branches he's got standing in his little triangle of power. Two of them might agree and overpower him. He's always liked to play people off against each other, and that's one of the reasons he liked this guy. And taking him out of the picture makes it easier for the other guys to take Putin out. So it's a weird, interesting power dynamic. How it's going to pan out, I don't know. But anyway, guys, here we are. Russians pulling in military reserves and they hold that ground near Bakhmut, from which they've already retreated somewhat, apparently. And it said the Russians are also, let me end all this share stuff. Bang. It said the Russians are also up in the age for the recruitment for their draft, that they are actually like military officers can now be drafted up to age 70. I guess the officers aren't going to be the guys on the front lines, but they're increasing ages at all levels for what they take in their service, which kind of says maybe they're a little more desperate than we think they would be. Now, Russia supposedly had a 1.5 million man army, and like a couple 100,000 at most around Ukraine right now. So where's all the rest of the troops? Well, they got to maintain peace, and Russia's an empire. There's republics out there who might decide to back away if they don't have somebody around to maintain security. They're still operating in the Pacific Ocean, around Kamchatka Peninsula and Vladivostok, which the Chinese want to take back. And they're also got some Arctic operations. I don't know, what's really cooking with the force distribution. Maybe they just can't get them all there. There's a lot of other discussion about all that. So, my friends, it's a fog of war. The information is sketchy that we get because of so much propaganda and counter propaganda. But the bottom line is NATO could be slipped into this all too easily. It might start in the Black Sea. Maybe it will be between, we thought it would happen somewhere else, like maybe the Zalewski Gap, or maybe, and it's still possible, maybe in Poland, maybe right there in Ukraine. How would NATO find themselves wedged into this? Has been a good question. But now the Black Sea comes up because Erdogan, the president of Turkey, might just get into it with Putin, and that could get NATO in right there. So that's the one place we weren't expecting. Now, the Biden administration is kicked back in regards to this blockade and said essentially not going to do anything about it, because the United States don't really have anything in the Black Sea, but Turkey does. So is Turkey going to be the instigator of all this? I did see one article goes, well, Putin better watch out because Erdogan's got nukes. Well, not really. There are nuclear weapons in Turkey, but they're U.S.-controlled nuclear weapons, at least so far. It could be that if Erdogan really wants them, he might overpower the American forces there, and within his own country, his military is very powerful. He's got one of the largest militaries in NATO. So the Turkish forces are not to be laughed at or trifled with. They're a very formidable force. They got a very formidable navy. as I mentioned in a previous video, where I went through and showed you the different ships and submarines they've got available to them there. It's nothing like the U.S. Navy, but when compared to what's in Sevastopol, the naval base in Crimea that Russia covets, and I often said would fight a nuclear war to keep. I don't know, it's getting interesting, guys. So it's just getting a little too interesting out there. You need to be ready for whatever may come, how NATO may get involved, whichever side you're on. When the kibbles start flying and stuff starts coming your way, it may not make much difference. The bottom line for you is to be ready, be prepared, get where you can maintain safety for yourself and your family mostly. Take care of your family, your loved ones. Just make sure you can get through this so you can survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. That's Proposition on channels to help you with that, and that's why I bring you this information. So, my friends, eyes wide open and head on a swivel, because it's coming at us from every single direction right now. We are in interesting times, and that's the old Chinese curse, and we're right in the middle of it. So, wish everybody the best. With that, I'm going to say, Greg out.